Thank you. Thank you, Philip. That was a very, very interesting presentation and quite an act to follow. So good morning, everybody. My subject is about communication, because if we think about leadership and business and structure, it's like having this amazing edifice with all the wiring and everything, but nothing to power it. What powers it, what connects the dots, what gets the building running as a smart building is the electricity, and it's quite invisible. And that's a lot like communication. So, just a quick introduction. I'm the founder and CEO of ICTN, the International Consulting and Transformation Network. And we focus on developing leadership potential. And this is my definition of leadership. Great leadership is the chemistry that combines competence, courage, and compassion into the rarest and most precious resource for the sustainability of our world. Why? Because I think we have a tremendous global bankruptcy of leadership. We focus on the development of C-level officers, on boards, leadership training. We do leadership teams and leadership communication. And that's our focus. But today, since the subject is communication, I'd like to talk about the three modalities of how we communicate. We can speak at people, which means we just throw some words at them. We can speak to them, and we can speak with them. And looking at this room full of such qualified, motivated, accomplished people, it would be a shame to waste our collective intelligence by not having a conversation. So I would like, instead of having a presentation, to have a conversation with all of you. And I hope you will participate and share ideas, because I think that's how we're going to get the best out of what we can offer as thought leaders in the world today. So these are the objectives of my talk.
Music down, sir.
I'd like to start out by asking you to watch this short video clip. It's 2 minutes. And then we'd like to talk about what is culture. When we talk about corporate culture, what on earth is this thing? And maybe collectively we can come up with an idea of what it is.
Music down, sir. Hey, cut the music. You know why I pulled you over?
Well, obviously you felt the need to exercise your limited powers and punish me for ignoring the speed limit. It's okay, I understand. So I like to punish people too. Or at least I used to.
License or registration?
Coming right up.
Are you trying to bribe me, sir?
Yes, of course. Is that not enough? Don't take more, it's only money.
It's against the law, sir.
People are funny about your laws, aren't you? You break the laws sometimes, don't you?
Sometimes. Put my siren on and drive really fast for no reason at all. Just because I can.
Right? Why wouldn't you? It's fun. Feels good to get away with something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's okay, officer. People like to tell me things. Those deep, dark, naughty little desires that are on their mind. It's a gift. Must be something about his face. You're tempted to keep that, aren't you? Well, what are you waiting for? Permission? Well, take it. Buy yourself something pretty. You deserve it. But if you don't mind, I really must be on my way.
Oh, yeah, of course. Hey, have a nice evening.
You too, officer. You too.
So, what's corporate culture? How do we talk to people if we don't understand them and understand their motives And we want to inspire them to do all kinds of complicated things. How do we do that? What's corporate culture? There are no right or wrong answers. Consider your hesitation. It's the way you make people feel. Are they willing to take a risk? Are they willing to speak up and say something when there's the possibility that it might not be the right answer? Please, go ahead. Absolutely. Absolutely. The way we do things. What else? Thank you for being courageous, speaking up. It's hard for us to have conversations. The way we do things when nobody's watching us. What else? What is corporate culture? And why do we do things certain ways? Why is it? Where does it come from? Yes? Who can help us with the translation? Imitation. We copy people. Absolutely. So it's complicated. It's not a straightforward black and white answer. And it's difficult for us to cross that line when we think there's a risk of being wrong. So how do you do culture transformation? Okay, I'd like to introduce you to an interesting thing by living it exactly, and how do we live it? How do we make it work? How do we connect all those pieces? So, the Lucifer effect is a very interesting phenomenon in psychology, where it's the tendency for iniquitous social context to negatively influence us. In other words, we're influenced by the kind of social context we find ourselves in. And this can induce us to do good or bad. We can break the law, we can do some terrible things. I have had the chance to experience this, not just academically, but in real life. I lived through a civil war and I saw what people can become when there are no controls. On my way here to Frankfurt, our flight got cancelled because there was an unexpected weather event in Istanbul. There was a storm, there were winds of over 100 miles per hour, buildings and trucks were knocked over. So we were delayed. Yesterday we arrived totally exhausted. But what was interesting to see is how people began to behave. When they wanted to get a ticket, when they wanted to get out of the plane, when they wanted to get out of the airport, it's absolutely the Lucifer effect. Our environment gives us permission to behave in ways that become very easy when everybody else is doing it. So easy. So what I want to talk about is, who is a leader? What's a leader? What's important about a leader? Is there a one-size-fits-all? We keep talking about who's the CEO, who is the leader, what are they supposed to do? And I'm saying any good leader, and we're all leaders in our own right, have to have judgment, wisdom, agility, and willingness to play more than one string on our guitar. We need to determine which way is the appropriate way for now. Should I be a visionary leader? That's great if you want to mobilize people towards a vision. But if you do that too often and you're talking to qualified people, they will tell you, why don't you just shut up and get to the details? It doesn't always work. It can work, but it's not the only one. Or the coaching leader, that's great. When you want to fill the pipeline with talent, when you want to make sure you have successors, that's a good style to communicate in and to lead in. But it doesn't work all the time. Affiliative leader, wonderful. When there is high stress, when there is uncertainty, and you want to give people a feeling of satisfaction and trust, we can use that, but you should not overuse it, nor should you use it all the time. Democratic leadership, great. When you have a group of equally qualified, intelligent people who you can communicate. You can't have democracy without education and discrimination and intelligence. Doesn't work. So in a crisis, it wouldn't work at all. Pace-setting leader, fantastic. When you're setting trends, when you're expecting excellence of yourself and others, and it's highly demanding and stressful, and this can work in an environment of high achievers, but not always. And a commanding leader, absolutely necessary when there is a crisis. You don't have time to play around with discussion, you want to take action, but if you use that too often, you stifle creativity and innovation. So what kind of leadership is best? What do you think? Yes? Absolutely.
When we talk about transformation, you need to have different styles at different stages at the transformation. So
Yes.
So you need to have, like you said, all the parts of the guitar, right? So at the right time.
100%.
Otherwise, you will not get any song out of it.
And you can't do it, nor can you play the tune, if you are not an excellent communicator. So who is an excellent communicator? How do we make sure that in this far more complicated world that we live in, we don't become irrelevant? Or that we are not able to have people trust us? Because if they don't trust us, why on earth should they listen to us? Why on earth should they follow our recommendations? Why? No reason. So what does it take to be a truly effective communicator? And the point I'm making is there is no really powerful leader, and by powerful leader I mean how do we get people to willingly follow us? People are hungry for certainty, which is a double-edged sword. We live in a world that is suffering from epic levels of information overload, misinformation, disinformation. And because people want certainty, they will hang onto anyone who promises them that they know the truth. That's how our Mr. Trump trumped America. People, he gave them certainty. He gave them confidence that, yes, he knew the answer, and they believed the lies. Just think of that. That's an amazing Lucifer effect example. So what does it take for us? I would say these three things, and these are not new inventions. The Greeks figured them out a long, long time ago. Ethos, logos, pathos. People look at us, they scan us, 4 seconds, 4 to 7 seconds. It's an automatic human reflex. We look at people, head, toe, up again, and you're in or you're out, finished. That's how it is. In my previous life, I used to teach media, and I taught that for a long time at university. I was finally the dean of that faculty, and then I left. But the first thing is ethos. Your ethos is, if you like, a good translation is your essence as a human being. When people look at you, do you inspire trust? What do they see? What do they feel? We think that, and we overuse our prefrontal cortex. We overuse the rational brain. But actually, we're being informed by our gut, which has enough neurons in it to be the brain of a dog, pretty intelligent dog. and our heart, which has a direct connection to our prefrontal cortex, those inform us, and those tell us if at the end of those 4 seconds you're in or you're out. So ethos, working on your ethos, getting comfortable with yourself, being okay, feeling safe with who you are, and presenting that. That's the first step to being an effective leader and communicator, because they're inseparable. A good communicator is a strategist. So a good communicator has to understand who they're talking to, why they're talking to them, what they want to say to them, and how they're going to say it, because if it's not done in the right way, it won't work. And a good test is ask yourself, can I summarize my message in one clear sentence? Do I know exactly what I want to say to this audience? And can I put it into a sentence? And if you can't, you're not sufficiently clear on what it is that you do want to say. Make sense? If it's not crystal clear, you don't know. And your audience will be none the wiser at the end. A good communicator is a strategist. What is the result I want to get? How do I reach these people? How do I touch their minds and their hearts? Because whether you want to believe it or not, all of us are irrational. Our decisions are made at a visceral level, and then the more educated we are, we come up with a great story to explain why that's the correct decision. See, on top of the Lucifer effect, we have something called confirmation bias. We all look for evidence to prove that our beliefs and our behaviors are correct. And that's why culture transformation is so hard without super communication. So, and that brings me to the last point, that's the pathos. Pathos is the emotion, awakening the emotions. So, your ethos is you. Do you inspire confidence? Your logos is what you're saying internally and externally consistent. Is it logical? Does it make sense in the world in which your audience lives? And pathos, can they feel? Can they feel the energy? Do they respond to that energy? And as a result, can you move them with you? So that's what it takes in a nutshell to be a really great communicator. Good communication is the glue, is the electricity, is the power. So leaders of change are great communicators and strategists. Why am I showing this to you? I use a program called Emotions and Behaviors at Work. I use business EQ when I work with teams in businesses, leadership teams in particular, because their decisions have the biggest impact on the organization. So if we look at this, we see all these different lines. And I have chosen one of the business EQ elements here. I've chosen influence because influence is directly related to our ability to communicate. How do you communicate in a networked organization where you don't have direct power? What do? We can't hire, we can't fire. We're not the people who are directly responsible for those people. So how do we move them? Yes? Yes, by motivating, by influencing, by helping them find their own personal, selfish motive. Like the conversation you saw Lucifer having with the cop. If you look at this diagram here, you will see that there are some red lines between one person and this. Let's just take Vera and Richard. Vera and Richard will have a more challenging time communicating with each other when they're discussing matters of influence. Because one may be someone who's quiet and doesn't speak up. Maybe Richard is someone who likes to speak and express himself a lot. And when he speaks and expresses himself a lot, if he does it forcefully, what's going to happen to Vera? Vera is probably going to keep quiet. If he asks her, what do you think? His impatience will get the better of him, and he will answer himself before she has a chance to even articulate half a word. And therefore, he knows nothing. None the wiser. So this diagram, which we use, we work, and we eventually get to the point where we speak quite transparently with people about the challenges they're having, addresses this issue. How much psychological effort do I need to communicate with another person who I need to influence? Red, it's about 32 kilos I have to lift to be able to talk to that person, because definition of psychological effort, the amount of energy and awareness needed to work with a person who feels, thinks, and experiences the world differently from me. It's not the same. I can't have the same conversation with everybody. Now, what is the risk of having a lot of blues and greens? What do you think? When you have a lot of blue and greens, a lot of people agreeing with us, what's the danger here? What happens? Yes? Yes, I go 1, 2, 3, yes? Go ahead. It's more challenging? They don't challenge you, they agree with you. And what's the risk of that? No other perspective. Yes, it has a name. It's called groupthink. We celebrate our stupidity together. Not a good idea. So yes, we need to have challenges, and it helps us when we have visibility, when we have a scientific way of looking at the other people in our teams, understanding why we have those challenges. A lot of times people who work on boards ask me, I disagree, we have an ethical problem. What do I do? Do I leave? Do I stay? Do I resign? It's a really hard question. Because if you leave, you're going to get hurt, and they will continue doing exactly what they're doing. If you don't leave, you may suffer reputational assassination, because if you challenge them, they're going to look at how to make sure you don't get another position like that. So it's always difficult to see how. How do I manage it? So psychological effort is a very good thing to think about, and that means before we speak to someone who's very different from us, who we find hard to talk to, maybe we need to do a little bit more reflection before we go there and develop a strategy. What do I really want from this person? What's the message? How do I address them? How do we go there? So leaders need clear, consistent, confident communication, because that is what enables trust. That is what enables trust. And I'd like you to help me figure out why these elements. What's the value of clarity? What do you think is the value of clarity? From your own experience, what is the value of clarity? It gives safety. Yes? It saves effort, exactly. Figure out what you want to say, and how can you say it clearly and specifically. Who else? It gives orientation. People will imagine taking somebody on a walk in a dangerous forest where it's foggy. How much energy are they going to put into walking through that? With your verbal directions, just think about that metaphor. If a forest full of fog, possibly some animals, and I'm giving you as a leader, telling you go there. You can't see, you don't know, it's unclear. Would that help? Do you think people will be motivated? What about the second one? Consistent. Why is consistency? How does consistency help? People know what to expect. They can rely on us. What else? If people can rely on us and they know what to expect, how would their feeling towards us be? What is the feeling towards us going to be? Trust. Trust is your power tool. If you cannot inspire trust, you can forget about being an effective leader, because when you walk out of the room, things will change. People will have a few things to say about you which may not be complimentary. So, clarity, consistency, confidence. What's confidence? What does confidence have to do with the equation? It's attractive. And what happens? Anyone here know about mirror neurons? Brilliant. Confidence is a two-way street. I trust myself. I trust you. You have the confidence that you can do it. You can make it happen. And therefore, we have an environment where there's a willingness to take a risk. Please, no one tell me that they're going to foster innovation in an environment where there is no trust. Please. Yes. Exactly. It's like people who yell at their children and then say, I love you, and then they punish them. Which one should I believe? So consistency is important. And consistency doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes, but it means that we have the courage to say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, I messed up, let's figure it out. So accepting our humanity and not trying or pretending to be perfect. So I just want to read a few sentences here that I wrote about this. What's the purpose of all this? The objective is to achieve understanding and not transfer information. And this is something I really want to talk to you about. What is the difference between understanding and information transfer? There's a big difference between those. One can mobilize people. Transfer of information. I have met people with umpteen PhDs and qualifications, and you know what they can do with all their information? Nothing. It's a nice certificate on the wall. But understanding gives everybody the luxury of choice. When I understand what you're trying to do, when I understand that you're trying to go there, I now, as an intelligent human being, have a choice of how I get to that destination if it coincides with my own values and my own priorities and my own personal purpose. Does that make sense? At the end of the day, culture transformation boils down to personal choice. I can decide to be good or I can decide to be evil. Simple. Just, I'm oversimplifying on purpose, but what I mean, every single time we come to do something in a corporate environment, do I obey? Do I not? Do I do? Do I not do? We're making a choice. We make thousands of choices a day, conscious and unconscious. But if I don't know and I don't understand your expectations, how on earth will I make the choice? And I can promise you there's no leader with a magic wand up there that's going to say anything that will improve my decision-making capabilities if I don't know what you want from me. My second thing is we need to earn trust. And earning, I use the word earning because it's not a beginning and end. It doesn't have an end. Earning trust is a continuous process. How quickly can we lose trust? Yes, a heartbeat. and the trust is gone. So working at trust is something you need to do consistently. It's not something you do occasionally. The third point I want to make is that, and this is, the outcome is to enable choices that lead to positive behavioral change. We want to enable people to make choices that lead to positive behavioral change. And that's why we communicate with them in this way. And finally, to achieve all of this, clarity, consistency, we need to have measurable results. We need to provide evidence. We need to provide evidence that what we are doing, measurable, irrefutable evidence that what we're doing is working. I have 2 case studies which I'm not going to bore you with, but they're on my last slide, and you can take a shot of them if you'd like to read of how this was implemented in one of the largest medical instruments corporations in the world. I'm not allowed to reveal their name, but you will figure it out from some of the definitions. But yes, unless we have clear, consistent, confident communication, we cannot earn trust, and it's only trust that enables change, because people will believe us sufficiently. They will have enough confidence that we're not going to change our mind tomorrow, so they can follow, they can move. So here's another tool that I use. This is also my business EQ that I use. I'm part of a global partnership with this. To actuate change, we must understand and connect, deliver, and move people as part of our daily responsibilities. To actuate change, we must understand, connect, deliver, and move people as part of our daily responsibilities. So let's look at this. Here are 6 business EQ drivers. These are the drivers that have a team together, that we can say we have the team, we have the organization, and it goes from a small one to a very large one. The factors are vision, trust, identity, commitment, communication, and working together. And these are scores of an actual leadership team. Of course, there are no names. But what is interesting here is that although the average score of vision is 6, the range of scores of people within the team go from 3 to 8. What does that mean? What does it mean? Any ideas? Yes. Some people actually understand what the vision is. Some people have no clue. And therefore, if we have no clue, it means that we're probably not all on the same side. If we're not all on the same side, we're not moving in the same direction. And the same applies for the other business EQ drivers. So, to create change, to create a transformation that we're talking about, we need to change the things we reward. If we are going to measure the things that we want to change, so that there's awareness and there's monitoring, we need to start rewarding the behaviors that would lead to that change, rather than, and I ask you this question, what is it that is rewarded in your company? In your organizations? Past achievement, reaching the target, or are we rewarding the behaviors that would lead to behavioral change? Because corporate culture are the beliefs and the behaviors that lead to certain actions of how we interact with one another and how we interact with the outside world. And that is what defines our corporate culture. So, for example, I'm going to give one case, adaptability. Adaptability is how open we are to change, how willing are we to embrace innovation. And I want to come compare that, let's say my adaptability, these are measured on a scale of 1 to 10. My adaptability is a 3. My decisiveness is a 9 out of 10. It's predictable. We know that this person will be a poor listener and will be unwilling to really take change on very easily. So when we look at culture change and we're trying to change, we need to ask ourselves, are we changing culture? Or are we trying to change people? And if we're trying to change people, we need to seriously think about the feasibility of doing that. Yes, we can change behavior, but if we want to change behavior sustainably, we need to think about what is the behavior that I change. Can I really change someone whose adaptability is a 3 to someone who's going to have adaptability 9? And do I want that? Or should I consider, yes? Yes. And we know how challenging that is because of confirmation bias. We all need to prove that who we are is who we are and it's the right way to be. So that's truly a big challenge. So if you're interested, even the devil can do good. Even the devil has a choice to make, and therefore giving people the opportunity to make better choices is probably a very good thing to do, and that is through consistent, clear, confident communication. If you're interested in the case studies where I explain how I actually implemented the communication and EQ strategy in the organization, they were able to improve. Some of you were mentioning yesterday the improvement in the organizational health index. They went up 4 points. So, and we also improve. We measure 3 things. Self-awareness on the individual level. Is self-awareness going up? And we measure it on a scientific consistent scale. Second, are the team performance factors improving? So we look at the individuals, we look at the leadership team, and we look at the business results. Depending on which sector of business they're in, we establish a set of measurable business indicators and a dashboard to monitor the change. Change the behavior, you change the results. Thoughts lead to feelings, feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to results. So it makes a lot of sense to build up our communication skills, to be able to inspire and motivate people to move, to make better choices in how they behave. And those of you who would like to link up with me on LinkedIn, I would be delighted to have you join my network and look forward to hearing from you. So, I'm done. Thank you very much. I hope I'm on time. I'm early. Okay, so we can do some questions and answers. Okay.
A spontaneous one.
Spontaneous. I don't mind spontaneous questions at all. Throw it at me.
You have Richard, who might suffer from Dunning-Kruger.
Yes.
How do you tell him that he might be the problem?
How do you tell someone that they might be the problem?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, is that person self-aware? And if you don't know, the first thing to ask people is, do you have an idea? What do you think might be getting in your way? Don't tell people. And I would say that's where the change is. Don't tell them, ask them. What do you think is getting in your way? What do you think you can do to change that? Do you believe you have the power to change it? And that will immediately tell you 2 things. It will tell you, 1, whether the person is aware, and the second thing it will tell you, does that person believe they have some power to do anything or not? And I think those two are the starting points. Once you know that, then you can begin to figure out by what strategy would I then be able to work with Richard. Yes?
I have a question related to the communication model you just shared, the confidence, the clarity, consistency.
Yes.
And so if I consider today's business environment, which is often defined as the VUCA environment, where very often the right answer is, I don't know.
Yes.
Then what would be your suggestion, like how to deal with those type of questions when, for example, the leader is just simply doesn't know? Because you have to create confidence, you have to create this safety around you. But what if you don't know?
Excellent. And the truth is that most of the time we don't know. Neither the leader nor the others know. But the thing to do is to ask a different question. And the question to ask is, what are we trying to accomplish? Yes, it's very uncertain and chaotic. And what are we trying to accomplish? And what actions would take us one step closer to that? So not looking for the right and wrong answer, that thinking, that binary thinking, that black and white thinking has been the greatest curse of humanity, because it makes us uncertain, hesitant, takes our confidence away. We think there is a right answer. We don't have a right answer. Unless there is something very finite and mathematical, we don't have right answers. We have answers about what would work. Will it take us one step closer to what it is that we're trying to do? So the question to ask is, what are we trying to accomplish? So what are we trying to accomplish? Do we come to work tomorrow or not? Because of the COVID restrictions. Well, instead of wasting your time with that uncertainty, don't come to work tomorrow, work offline, and once we have more clarity about the situation, we will share that. So there are no, don't ask right and wrong. I think that's the answer. What are we trying to accomplish? How can we do it? Yes?
How do you measure? You had that vision,
Yes.
and so on. How are you measuring that?
I use a tool called Emotions and Behaviors at Work, and we have several versions. The Emotions and Behaviors at Work, I'm a global partner in the Emotions and Behaviors at Work online system, and we are able to generate individual reports. Individual reports tell us about people's behaviors in terms of decisiveness, the business behaviors, decisiveness, motivation, influence. I can put that slide back up if influence, adaptability, empathy, conscientiousness, stress resilience, and self-awareness. And it's pretty detailed. We generate a report that's about 20 pages, close to 20 pages, with very detailed information. We use a scale, a standardized scale. It's a nonlinear scale of 1 to 10. And what it tells us is, for example, on decisiveness, are you a 10, a 7, a 6, a 1? And what does that mean in terms of your actions, whoever you are? And it also will tell me why you have conflicts with certain people. And it gives us a second report, which is one that we could use for recruitment when we're selecting people and we need certain characteristics and behaviors. It can give us quite good predictability. Of course, not to the exclusion of anything else. We use everything else, interviewing and checking and all of that. But this gives you a validation of what you can expect from that person behaviorally. The other tool that we look at for trust and vision and all of that is the EBWT, Emotions and Behaviors at Work in Teams. And that's a huge report because it generates those maps for every single one of those behaviors. We have a decisiveness map, we have a motivation map, we have an influence map, adaptability map. And then you can begin to scientifically analyze what's wrong. Why are these people not getting along? How do we change the message? How do we communicate? And I actually offer accreditation to people who would like to get accredited to use these tools themselves. So if you're interested, Yes. It actually gives you a conversation that you can have with people where you remove the doubt, and it's not my personal opinion. It's your feedback report. Yes. I can hear you.
Within your model, usually the big 5 personality traits also has or have agreeableness and disagreeableness, and you have it also in your model, maybe with adaptability. And how should one take care of a CEO that is maybe really disagreeable?
Okay, people who are disagreeable, again, I don't know what their reasons are, but personality traits are a little different than this behavioral model. The personality traits will just tell you what can you expect, what is most likely for this person to do. But an emotional behavioral report like this is actually behavioral, and it predicts how people will act. It predicts behaviors, not traits. And there's a significant difference between a trait and a behavior. A trait is kind of like your DNA. But I could be someone who is very decisive, and I can be agreeable or disagreeable. And my disagreeableness might come, just to give you a live example, if I'm someone who wants to take quick decisions, and you're asking me for a lot of data, and you're asking me to give you reports, and you're asking me to do all of this, I will become very irritated with you. Not because what you're doing is wrong, but because I'm irritated by you slowing me down. And you lose confidence in me because I'm asking for too much information, so you assume I want to make a decision without information. So we lose trust because I want to decide without data. You want a lot of data, so you lose respect for me. And I get irritated with you because I think you're obstructing my progress. Okay. Right. So thank you very much.